thank you again. I'm Eric Zell, a consultant with Prologis, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to the RNCC tonight. Many of you, I know Jan multiple times, Arto multiple times, Don multiple times. Many of you have heard this presentation, so feel free to take a break. But we appreciate the opportunity to be here. One of the things I really wanted to mention before Samita and Banki will go into some specifics about Prologis and the process is that the city, as many of you may know, the city has decided that they wanted to undertake a specific plan process related to the Hilltop Mall area, not just Hilltop Mall, but the Hilltop Mall development area, which includes more than just the mall. It's probably an 18-month to 2-year process. The city received $1.3 million in grants from ABAG and MTC to do this process. It is a totally transparent and community-driven process for the community to weigh in on what they would like to see up at Hilltop. Obviously, Prologis is a key stakeholder in that, and we'll provide input into that process. What I wanted you to be aware of is at the last council meeting, the item to start the specific plan process and accept the grant was taken off consent and is being brought back to the council on November 16th. I would encourage anybody who is interested in that process, because that's really what's going to kick this whole thing off, to support that effort to move forward with the process on the 16th, because without that, the process doesn't begin. And if the city doesn't pursue the process at all, then the only thing left for the landowner to do is to actually submit a proposal to the city, which is sort of putting the cart before the horse. We'd rather get a lot of community input into a process before submitting something to the city. Now, of course, Prologis could do that on their own, and they would if that's what they had to do. But I just wanted to give that context for the RNCC because it's a critical component to this project. If we don't even kick off the specific plan process, there's not going to be much to talk about. So I just want to do a little diversion there and let you know about that. And with that, I'll let Samita and Banki, who will go through a bit of a presentation for your group and then answer any questions you have. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thanks, Eric. Banki, if you could share screen, that would be great. And thank you, everybody, for making time on a Monday evening to talk to us. Thanks, Jan, and feel free to go get a hot tea, Jan. You work so hard. I saw you at the Trunk or Treat event, just, going at it, giving candy to the kids. And I don't think you had anyone else at your trunk, right? Were you just doing it all alone?
I was all alone. Next time I'll make sure I have somebody.
Yeah, you let us know. We'll give you some help there. But it's fantastic, everything you do for the community. So to just, echo what Eric said, it's a bit surprising for us to see a city council not support, a public grant, a study, to go through a specific plan process being led by our own city staff. So that was a little bit of a, shocker, but hopefully it goes through now with the community support, because I know that, one thing that we've seen through the community members we've talked to is one thing that everyone's unified on is everybody wants to see change in this area. No one wants to live with a dead mall. So going into the presentation, what we wanted to cover today was just tell you a little bit about who we are, Prologis, how we think about our projects, and talk a little bit about our intent for the site. We don't have any drawings yet because we're really still in listening mode, talking to the community. And the process was really to, work with the city to get that input before we would be ready to present anything. But happy to take any questions and share what I just mentioned. So let's go to the next slide, Banki. So Prologis is one of the world's largest logistics developers. And we were founded in the Bay Area. So we're very much born and bred in the Bay Area in 1983. The CEO of the company lives here. Banke and I both live in the Bay Area. I'm raising a family here. So everything we do here, we're very much invested in it. And we have very much, a personal stake in it. I was there at Trunk or Treat with my family. My kids were dressed up as pirates. And we all showed up there, and that was kind of what we did for Halloween. So, we really care about what we're doing here. Next slide, please. That's a slide that shows our team. So Banke and I are here right now, and you'll hear from us, but we have, a bunch of other people working behind the scenes on different aspects of this project. We're committed to doing everything we need to produce something high quality here. Let's go to the next slide, Banke. And we can share this with you so that you have our contact information. If you have questions or if you have any comments you'd like to share, anything that comes to mind, feel free to reach out to us and send us a note or give us a call. So our values as an organization, we very much believe in innovation. We actually have a group of people within the company that just invest in, startups that are trying to reduce carbon emissions and trying to produce clean energy, trying to innovate in different ways. So that's a big priority for the company. Secondly, we care a lot about the environment, and our projects tend to have large roofs. So we have some of the world's largest solar installations. Every time we start a project, we have a team that's thinking about, what are the things we can do to conserve water, conserve energy, reduce emissions. So it's a huge priority, and we spend a lot of time thinking about it. And then last but not the least, we have a community workforce training program, which we've implemented globally. And Banke will talk a little more about it, but we would love to partner with local groups in Richmond to implement it in Richmond as well. Next slide. So Banke, why don't you take over here?
Okay, thanks, Samita. So a little bit about our community workforce initiative is that we launched it in 2018 with a twofold goal, and that was to create economic opportunities in the communities that we operate out of, and to also train the next generation of logistics talent. And since inception, we have trained over 7,000 participants on our platform. And by the end of this year, we will be in 15 locations across both the US and the UK. We pledged to train another 10,000 participants and place 5,000 of them in jobs related to logistics, to transportation, distribution, production, and repair. And for example, one of our partners in Southern California, EXP, partnered with us to roll out our CWI program to the local high school, where over 800 students graduated from the program, and we had a high graduation rate, and many of those students went on to obtain paid internships in related field. A little bit to go a little bit into depth about the CWI program in particular. It's an online training program that's about 35 hours, consists of about 38 modules that train participants in basic workforce skills, workplace safety, as well as industry-specific knowledge, including forklift operation. And upon completion of the program, participants have the opportunity to also obtain a certification from the Association of Supply Chain Management, which can be a fantastic credential to add to their resume and to really help them to stand out when applying for jobs in the TDL industry, the transportation, distribution, and logistics industries. And to go, so Prologis isn't just here to, we show up and we support our communities in many ways. Not only do we create opportunities through our community workforce initiative, we've also, during this unprecedented time, made it a point to support communities, whether it's through making donations and contributions to community-based organizations, especially those that are on the front lines of the response to COVID, but we've also made in-kind donations in the form of space through our Space for Goods program, as well as to other causes, including racial equity, as shown here. So we're excited to connect more with the community and explore in what ways that we can support. As you may know, we try to show up, whether it's through trunk or treat, sponsoring the trunk or treat event, or holding the Christmas tree farm, as well as the pumpkin patch event. And we're looking for more opportunities. So it'd be great to hear your feedback and your suggestions. And with that, I will hand it over to Smita to talk a little bit more about our work as it relates to sustainability.
Thanks, Banke. And you look great in that Dorothy costume. So I don't want to, it's a Monday night and it's 8:30, so I'm not going to bore everyone with how many megawatts of energy our solar panels produce. So why don't we go to the next slide? Now I'll end up putting a few people to sleep if I do that. So we'll just spend a minute talking about our aspirations for Hilltop. So, as I mentioned, when we enter a community and we decide to invest there, we actually study it, we understand it, we engage with people there, try to understand what is everyone looking for, and especially for a project of this size. So that's why we're here talking to you. And our goal for this project is, we want to create a mixed-use development here. And we want it to be vibrant, right? Because that's what Hilltop Mall used to be. It's where people gathered together. So we want it to be a place to be. We want to bring in, I think someone should mute because I'm hearing so we want to, we want to bring jobs and revenue here and innovation here. So it will be a mix of uses. We know that, this area needs more open space where people can walk and bike around. They want to see some amenities like a grocery store, a few places to grab a coffee or, have lunch and dinner. So we want to, include all those different aspects, whether it's logistics, retail, open spaces, residential. So it's going to be a mixed use neighborhood with all of that. And we hope that it's something that everybody on this call and, further around can be proud of. So that's our intention. And where we are right now is engaged an architect, a sustainability consultant. We've, started having these meetings, talking to all of you to understand what your vision is for this space. And the next step, as we understand it, was going to be, Lena and team from the city. We're going to get started with the specific plan process, and that would have been a deeper dive into engaging with the community and putting pen to paper and then coming back to you with proposals of what we're going to see there. So let's go to our next and last slide, Banke, after which we'll pause for questions. So our goal, our 4 shared goals for this project are, number 1, starting from the right, we want to achieve design excellence, right? The architect that we've engaged is the same team that designed a bunch of very successful projects across the world that are all mixed use. One of them is Hudson Yards in New York, and there's another one called 5M in San Francisco. We want to create beautiful public spaces, somewhere where you feel like, walking in and spending time with your family. Our second goal is to make the right decisions so that we can uplift people socially, right? Bring equity, listen to all stakeholders, think about health and well-being, especially in what we've all been through the last 2 years. And then the third one, which I mentioned earlier, is environmental, right? We want to design thoughtfully and make sure everything, the decisions we make are, We're designing in a way to conserve water and electricity and reduce carbon emissions. We want to create a bike, very bike-friendly, walkable neighborhood. We want to find a way to keep the bus transit station in and around Hilltop so that it's connected with public transit. And last but not the least, it does need to be economically feasible so that everything I just mentioned is achievable. Because the only way that real change happens is, when there's a financially feasible way to move forward with everything that we just talked about. So that's all we had on our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions and comments that you may have.
Mute myself. Sorry, go ahead, Don.
Thank you very much. This is more a comment than anything else. You've already run into this to some extent, but you're going to run into a lot more of it. Please, please, please do, when you're approached by community leaders and by city council members saying that if you don't take care of me with my pet project, I'm going to kill your project. Just say thank you very much for your input and move on. Do not bend over, do not bow down to them, do not acquiesce to them, because these people will just keep asking for more and more and more. They are shameless on demanding that you fund their projects if you want their support. It's a fine line you've got to walk, and I don't envy you on that, but please don't bow down to them, because it just encourage them and it just enable them to do that for the next developer and for future developments. Thanks a lot.
Rock, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, just curious, you might have had it in there. I know that there's going to be a real balance. It sounds like you're doing a lot of work on that in creating a very healthy neighborhood and area. Will there be, I know you're going to have businesses. Is there going to be like kind of a strip mall type of thing in there? Is that an aim? Are they going to have like kind of a strip mall type of within that model?
We plan to have retail there for sure, so that it's an active neighborhood. We've heard that the community wants to see a grocery store. So there'll be a grocery store and there'll be some other retail. It could be food uses. Were you thinking of something specific? You wanted
No,
to
just that I know that I know it's not everything's exactly the same, but when you go to some other cities, like there are more malls, but like Corte Madera, or where you go to Concord's done a lot of stuff now. Of course, they have a lot of density that's come in, but they have you know how they have, what's that one called? Raza, it starts with a V. There's a lot of places have strip malls now, and I was just curious. We might not have a large one if we have a whole community developed, but I was curious if there'll be some type of a model like that.
There will be. There'll be retail.
Okay.
I'm hoping it'll be better than a strip mall.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Go
call it a
ahead.
strip. I wouldn't call it a strip mall. I would just call it retail. It's going to be a component of a mixed use plan.
Okay.
Madeline?
Fair enough.
Madeline, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a sports and recreation person. And one of the things, we have a lot of recreation centers, excuse me, and recreation programs that go on in the inner city of Richmond. One thing that we don't have is a sports center. I travel a lot to a lot of other cities, and they, the big thing now is developing sports centers where you can do year-round sports. You can entertain like basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, these kinds of things. Our high schools are not really equipped for that kind of venue. And I would, it would really be interesting to have a sports, it doesn't have to be huge, but something that you can entertain sports tournaments, volleyball, basketball, the new thing is pickleball, whatever. And it has, the snack bar, and it has the amenities for spectators. I know they have several all over the Bay Area, Livermore and where have else have I been? Walnut Creek, Concord, those areas have developed, even Martinez have developed sports centers. If you go, to Martinez, and I can't think of, sits behind the railroad, they have a full sports center where people could go and enjoy sports. And that's something that we don't have in the city of Richmond. I'd love to see something like that developed.
Yeah, that's a really good comment, Madeline. And actually, we're talking to a basketball operator and someone in the community who provides soccer lessons to kids, even as an interim use.
Yes.
Right away. And we'll definitely keep that in mind for the long-term plan as well. Eric, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Madeline, there's also, as you might be aware, on the corner of Hilltop Drive and the Parkway, there's that big empty lot there. And there's also discussion about doing some kind of, that's not part of the Prologis owned property, but there's discussion about doing a big sports center there. And so that needs to be somehow coordinated with whatever's going to happen at the mall.
Right, right.
This
Yeah, I wasn't aware that,
Yeah.
there was talk about that.
Yeah,
That's
there's
one thing that we're missing.
Yeah, and there's a big sign up there that talks about a sports center and right, Samita, that just came up to your neighborhood council. Samita is a member of the new Hilltop District Neighborhood Council, and they just brought that up, right, Samita? Or somebody reached out to them about it.
Yeah, that's right. So it looks like that's in the works. I don't think it's
Okay,
fully-
thank you. I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Artel, you have a question? Go ahead.
I do. So Prologis had an agenda item on the last for the last city council meeting, and it was pulled by Councilman Martinez. It's my understanding that he was concerned that it was a study involving industrial, and he's got concerns about warehousing because that's what Prologis specializes in, is warehousing or logistics. So maybe you could speak to that right now and tell us if there's going to be warehousing up there and how big is it going to be?
Oh, yeah.
You want me to comment, Samita, or you want?
Can, and I can add to it, Eric.
So that's what I was referring to at the beginning of my comments, Arto, was the fact that, and it wasn't a Prologis agenda item. It was a staff-driven specific plan item about the specific plan as a whole, not about specifically about Prologis. So that's the first thing. The second thing is clearly Prologis is a logistics developer. And so they are clearly looking as part of something that's very unique. And I'm not sure if it's ever been done, but to do a mixed use project that will bring a lot of the amenities that the community wants around residential and around retail and around, parks and other things, but it will also include, to the best of the ability of the community's input and Prologis and their architects, a logistics component that would be a part of it. And, the economics will be studied as part of the specific plan process and all of that. But to ultimately, at the end of the day, make a project work at Hilltop that everybody's going to want, it's got to be economically feasible. And one thing we know is that the logistics component of this, as we're seeing everywhere you look, there's just a lot of demand because we're buying everything online. There's a lot of demand for that component. So there's no question that logistics will be a component of it, Arto. The question really, and it's way too early to decide on the size and even the location. That's going to be a function of the community process and the public input process, including Prologis's, in terms of what makes sense for the site. So can't really comment on the size of a logistics component, but we do see it as a core economic engine to the success of the mall.
Garland, go ahead with your question.
It's somewhat of a question and a comment. As you should be aware, Hilltop is one of only 3 regional commercial areas within the city of Richmond. There's one down at the end of Richmond where I'm at, down near the El Cerrito, Albany, Richmond border. There's one right in the middle of town at Target. And then there's, of course, the one up at Hilltop. If you take an area with that specific special type of zoning and modify it to the point to where it doesn't have that special appeal anymore, it's a great disservice to everyone in the city. And I'm not stating that you're wanting to do that. It's more likely the city is going to try to do that. They've already had many proposals to have high-rise housing there. They've already tried that with the regional center area down near our end of town. Although that may be put off for a while. Once an area that's vastly commercial is switched over to residential, very, very rarely will it ever switch back. If you talk to planners in cities, they will tell you that the most revenue a city can gain from an area of property is if it's commercial. And so just because the MTC or ABAG is pushing for more housing in the Bay Area, you don't just take a huge chunk of land that may be available and convert it over to housing. More thought needs to be put into this project. One needs to look at, why did the mall fail or subside? One has to look at the neighborhoods that are around the mall and understand why they affected the mall so that they won't affect whatever project you have in the future. The biggest thing that you can see is that where you're located and just on the other side of the freeway, there's a vast difference in how people think of the businesses that are there and who's willing to go into them. And so it's great that you came in and you're purchasing the property and you have plans for it, but we want it to be successful. There's people that have lived in this city for 60, 70, 80 years, and they've seen all the changes. And they hate to see something fail because the city has a bad reputation or the city's not willing to step up to the plate and support what you really need.
Thanks. Those are really good comments, Garland. And I think you should speak at City Council and express those opinions, because you're absolutely right. And we'll be, so as part of this process, we'll be doing a fiscal analysis, and the city has a consultant engaged to do that as well, that is going to study, the tax revenue generated by different uses that come to the city, and also the cost to the city, right? There's a cost of creating the infrastructure for new housing, which is not there if you put in commercial. So it's different for each use. And you're absolutely right. It needs to be the right mix and things, different uses, how they relate to each other and how you create a destination so that you get the right kind of traffic to serve your retail. All those things need to be thought through when this is designed. So those are all really good comments. Agree with you completely.
Completely.
Muted again, sorry. Do we have any other questions for Samita or Banke? Arto, again.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that whenever you have large projects like Hilltop Mall or even the sports center, if it's brought to your neighborhood council, it would be good to incorporate or ask the surrounding neighborhood councils for involvement because it's going to be affecting their neighborhoods as well. That's it.